That's right. Savor it. College football is back. Let it play a little bit longer. The college football season is now upon us. That is right. And speaking of back, welcome back, college football fans, to the only channel where we examine, discuss, honor, and celebrate all things college football across the entire college football landscape, right here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. That's it. Week 0. We've got a couple football games that are merely days away. I mean, once upon a time, we were months away from the season, and then we were weeks away. Now we are days away. And what a huge game we have across the pond over in Ireland. Farmageddon 2025 between a ranked Kansas State team faces off with a fellow ranked Iowa State team. I mean, what a huge game right out of the gate. Big time Big 12 and playoff ramifications on the field. I mean, I can't wait to watch it. And what a great time of year it is. I'm your usual host here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, Blair Parks, and it's great to be back with you. Thank you. You're way too kind. I really appreciate it. And wow, what a great time of year, everybody. We've gotten through the off season. We've gotten through the dog days of summer. College football is nigh. All right. Now, the official opening week is next Saturday, Labor Day weekend, but hey, we've got some college football games on tap. At this point, I would just absolutely sacrifice so much, maybe even anything, just to even watch Central Michigan, play our Sisters of Mercy College. Okay, that's how much I miss the greatest game that we have in this country, and I can't believe it's already here. Excellent. But anyway, let's go ahead and regroup, rewind a little bit. So what I've got on tap for you today, as promised via last week's episode, and if you haven't listened or watched that one yet, I absolutely know you will enjoy it. It was my big episode, my 2025 college football playoff predictions, and also the Power 4 conference predictions episode. Definitely don't want to miss that one, so check it out. But today, what I've got, today's episode is all about the black and gold of the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's right. This is my 2025 Iowa Hawkeyes preview and predictions episode. I'll be breaking down everything us fans of the black and gold need to know about the upcoming season, and I hope you agree, but we'll have to wait and see with my perspective, the facts that I see ahead of me and my opinions based on the upcoming season. Before I say anything else, though, I just want to say a big thank you and a tip of the cap to all of you who have helped support the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. It continues to grow. Likes, rates, comments, subscriptions are up. So let's go ahead and continue and keep the momentum on our side. Please, I want to help find more college football fans just like you. The Touchdown Black and Gold vlog is not only a channel that caters just to the fans of the black and gold of the Iowa Hawkeyes, but to all college football fans, regardless of your team of fandom. Everyone is welcome here. So please, I always ask you to help further support and help the channel grow by giving me a like, giving me a rate, subscribe, click that notification button, and I always ask for, welcome, and appreciate your involvement. Please, if there's anything that you want to respond to, as far as what I state during this episode, go ahead and blow up that comment section below, and I promise I will get back to each and every one of you much sooner than later via those comments. Because, hey, without you, none of this is possible. I mean, what an absolute blessing and pleasure it is for me to be here with you on the weekly, sharing my love for all things college football with you, my fellow college football fanatics. So please get involved, comment, like, share, subscribe, and I can't wait to hear from you. All right, so let's go ahead and get to today's episode, my Hawkeye preview and predictions episode. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and start off with my big fives, okay? After I give you an overview of this upcoming season, I'm going to give you my 5 areas of strength and concern for this Iowa Hawkeye program, this team for this season, my 5 stars or my 5 impact players. Some of these players on the Hawkeye squad you may already know of, but these are the 5 cats that I think are really going to have huge breakout and impactful seasons in 2025. Then I will give you my schedule breakdown as far as, hey, let's just take a glance at the schedule, and then I will give you my record prediction and give you my official forecast for the Iowa Hawkeyes in the 2025-26 season. All right, so stay tuned. Please like, share, comment. Thank you for all you do, and let's go ahead and help the channel grow. All right, so my overview before I get started. Iowa is coming off a 8-5 season last year. That included a bowl loss in the Music City Bowl to Missouri, a game that yours truly was at, and what a great experience it was, even in defeat. I mean, if you've never gone to a bowl game, go. Especially the Music City Bowl, which normally is Big Ten versus SEC. It was a great host. I mean, I love Music City, one of my favorite cities in this great nation. But seriously, if you are a college football fan, before you get 6 feet under, you have to go to a bowl game. You've got to have that experience. It was great. All right. Kirk Ferentz, the coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes, now is entering his 27th season, roaming the sidelines there in Iowa City. Easily the most tenured, long-term coach in all of college football. Iowa enters year 2 under newly signed and hired offensive coordinator Tim Lester. Last year's offense, huge improvements from the debacle and the embarrassment. I always kind of mention the offensive offense that it was under the previous regime. Coach Brian Ferentz and quarterbacks like Spencer Petras, Cade McNamara, Deacon Hill. I'm sorry, I know some of us Hawkeye fans cringe when we name some of those players, but hey, definitely huge improvement in the Iowa offense last season. But something that needs to be taken into account is how are they going to replace Iowa's stud running back Caleb Johnson, who really at times put this offense on his back, on his shoulders, on his legs. They're going to have to replace that production from last year. I mean, the guy was absolutely next level last year. And that really was the main reason for Iowa's offensive climb. Out of the cellar, out of the basement, Iowa still had issues last year with the vertical passing game, really having any sort of deep threat. It was few and far in between. So it really was based on the running game's improvement. So Iowa still has a lot of improvement to do through the air, but we'll see what the boys can do under Tim Lester going into this season. Now, Phil Parker, the defensive coordinator, he enters his 15th season as the Iowa Hawkeyes defensive coordinator. And there were some questions. I have some big questions following last year's season. Iowa's defense, and we've gotten so potentially spoiled in Iowa City to just view how stout this Iowa defense has been the last decade. I mean, they've been the tier 1. I mean, right there with the suspects, those teams that have dominated college football the last 10 seasons. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. The Iowa defensive numbers have been right there, if not even better than some of those programs. But last year just maybe lost a little bit of the pep in its step, I guess. The execution was a little bit off, and we saw something happen last year that none of us recently are accustomed to. Iowa lost 3 double-digit leads during games that ended up then costing them a victory. It happened at home week 2 against Iowa State, It happened later in the season at UCLA. And then in that bowl game against Missouri, Iowa also had a 10-point lead at one point, but the Iowa defense surrendered it and just couldn't hold on. Once again, something that we just haven't really seen. I mean, they are mortal after all, I mean, when it comes down to it. So how can the defense rebound and get back to their form of old? We'll have to wait and see. And all of the hype, all of the talk, I mean, he collected himself a pretty good paycheck in the offseason, is the Mark Gronowski era begins at QB1, but it's only going to be for a single season. He only has 1 year of eligibility left. The two-time champion, formerly at the FCS level at South Dakota State. That's right, the power of the Missouri Valley in the FCS. So he takes over the quarterback duties for Iowa, and there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of excitement, and we'll have to discuss and see how this plays out on the field for Mark Gronowski as he takes over at QB1. And I definitely will talk more in depth about Mark Gronowski later in this episode. So just hang on, stay with me. All right, so now let's move into my first official segment of this episode, my 5 areas of strength for the Iowa program heading into the 25-26 season. I'm going to start off with number 5. So number 5 would be an area of strength, but not the top area of strength that I see. That's going to be number 1. So let's start off with number 5. As far as the first really area of strength is going to be the tight end unit. I mean, these tight ends, I think both of them could potentially be the next great Iowa tight end to leave the program and make their mark at the next level in the NFL. I expect a big season from Addison Ostrenga and Zach Ortworth. Both of these guys are experienced. They have big-time catches the last couple of years in the Iowa offense when Iowa decided to throw the ball, all right? So I think this is going to be a huge strength. And we all know that every program out there depends on their tight end play, but there's not a single program out there in America that relies more and utilizes their tight ends more than the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I expect big things from the tight ends this year. Number 4, the D-line. The defensive line, I think, is a huge area of strength. I expect big things. Now, these guys along that unit, along the defensive line, they may not be the most deepest unit. There's a lot of guys, but some of them don't have legitimate game time or game reps. But the guys who are there, I expect them to continue to put up big numbers and really give opposing quarterbacks and running backs fits. I'm really looking at defensive end Max Llewellyn, tackle Aaron Graves, the other defensive end Ethan Herkett, Jeremiah Pittman, and then incoming freshman, a last name that all of us Hawkeye fans are familiar with, Los Epinesa, younger brother of former stud defensive lineman A.J. Epinesa, who now is killing it for the Buffalo Bills in the NFL. His younger brother, I think, even though he's a true freshman, I do expect him to be on the field at times in certain situations. One of the highest ranked recruits ever in the history of Iowa football. So everything is trending up for the Iowa defensive line. I can't wait to see them in action this year. All right. Number 3, the running back room. I already mentioned you've got to replace All-American stud running back Caleb Johnson, but the Iowa running back room is not like Mother Hubbard's cupboard. It is completely not bare. We've got 3 guys who are ready to step up, who have legitimate game time experience. They've been in the program for a couple seasons. They're familiar with it. They know the personnel. They've been out there on the field. They've toted the rock. They've had some hits on them, so they're used to it. And I think these 3 guys will kind of be like a running back by committee, but I think all of them are going to be able to put up legit numbers, and that is Kamari Moulton, Jazzy and Patterson. I just like to call him Jazz myself. So we got Jazz Patterson and Terrell Washington Jr. All of these guys have game time experience, but that Iowa running back room is very, very deep behind them as well. I mean, we all know you must have some contingency plans at running back, because at some point, it's not going to be a question of if injuries happen, if they get banged up, but really when. So I can't wait to see those guys tote the rock out of the backfield. Number two, thank you, number two. The goal, or the most important thing for the success of any running back unit, is the offensive line. And I'm telling you, I think this might be one of the best Iowa offensive lines that we've seen, at least in the last 5 seasons. I mean, they are going to be very, very good. They are experienced, they're deep, and a lot of them are already gaining a lot of all Big Ten, all American type tabs, especially Bo Stevens, Jennings Dunker, Logan Jones, and Jack Dotzler. I mean, I cannot wait to see these guys part the Red Sea, make some holes there for the Iowa running backs, and also to protect Mark Gronowski in passing situations. I think this is an Iowa offensive line that is going to look very Iowa-like from the past. I cannot wait to see these guys out there. But once again, hopefully they are not plagued by the injury bug. So without an offensive line, you can't have success at running back and vice versa. All right? So number one, what I forecast and predict is going to be the biggest area of strength for this year's Iowa squad. I know this is so cliche for us Hawkeye fans, and hey, it's not something that's new. It's even kind of an ongoing joke, is the special teams unit. Because remember, after all, punting is winning, right? But the Iowa special teams, I'm going to start off by saying this. Not only will they be the best combined unit in the Big Ten Conference, but they have the opportunity to be one of the best, if not the best, in the entire country. All right, and that is not me, blowing smoke up anybody's rear end. All right, this is just a legitimate truth. I think Phil Steele himself, the soothsayer of all soothsayers, right? The what is it? The Delphi, right? The soothsayer of Delphi back in ancient Greece. He himself mentioned and noted that Iowa special teams is the best unit in the entire nation. All right, and they have a chance to really, really solidify, to set up the defense and really get some scores and put the Iowa offense in really legit scoring chances and opportunities and situations. And this unit, you've got experienced field goal kicker, place kicker Drew Stevens, a guy who has been almost automatic. You have punter, the newest punter from down under. You've got sophomore punter Reese Dakin, who is 2 years removed from replacing the original punter from down under, Torrey Taylor, who's now punting with the Chicago Bears in the NFL. It's great to see. I mean, when you watch some highlights from this summer, fall camp, kids day, I mean, Reese Dakin is basically punting, and you're seeing that ball travel 65, 70 yards in the air. I mean, you got to love that. It just comes down to his touch. How consistently can he pin teams inside the 20 and inside the 10 to set up the defense? All right, but I'm really excited to see punter Reese Dakin out there. And last but certainly not least, I mean, the stud, the Cooper DeJean 2.0, the Super Bowl hero. He's killing it for the Philadelphia Eagles. Kick returner Caden Weegan. I mean, a guy that I saw in person a couple times last season. I mean, he returned a kickoff in the Music City Bowl against Missouri. I believe he had 2 touchdown returns last year. I mean, the guy is instant offense. He is impactful. I mean, I cannot wait to see him out there. And the offense under Tim Lester, they have said they are going to find more ways to get him involved in the offense, maybe as a receiver, maybe in that bubble screen or some reverses, but they need to get him on the field. I mean, with his shiftiness, his speed, and just his his knack to get upfield and find the end zone, they got to get him out here. So I am so stoked and excited to watch the Iowa special teams, all right? Because just like the Iowa, their dependence on the tight end position, no other program out there depends and relies more on their special teams unit than the Iowa Hawkeyes. All right, so let me know what you think about my 5 strengths of this team. Go ahead, comment below, like, share, subscribe, rate. All right, so let's go ahead now and move into the reverse of that, my 5 areas of potential concern for this Iowa Hawkeye squad heading into this season. Let's go ahead and start off with number 5, the lowest of my concerns. Initially, I had them a little bit higher on this list, but I think there's a lot of good things to work with, but we've never really seen them in action. Not really because of their faults, but really the fault of the Iowa vertical pass game. I'm going to start off number 5 with the wide receiver room. All right. There is a lot of guys in this wide receiver room who I believe are capable of moving the chains or creating some big plays down the field. Like I said, they just haven't been given the opportunity the last couple seasons. I mean, I like this squad. Reese Vandersee really showed up last year in week 1 as a freshman. He's back. He was banged up. He missed some games last season. He's back. I like Jacob Gill, the kind of the steady Eddie wide receiver. He came here last year with quarterback Brendan Sullivan, who transferred out to Tulane in the offseason. He's still with Iowa, a guy who's got really, really dependable hands, a good route runner. And finally, Seth Anderson, the guy for the last couple seasons we've heard so much about his potential, his speed, his hands, how he could be a potential deep threat. I think he's finally going to be given the opportunity this year to maybe showcase his skill, all right, because of Mark Gronowski having a quarterback who has proven he is capable and can throw a pretty legit deep ball, all right? So I still have concerns about the wide receiver room and group, but not as much. I just need to see them step up and then show that they're capable of being a consistent threat. All right. Number 4, and I think this is a legitimate threat for every Hawkeye fan who's keeping up with this team, their linebacker unit. I mean, they have to replace all of those starters last year. I mean, Alaric Jackson. I mean, all of these guys who moved on to the NFL. I mean, I'm not saying that Iowa's linebacker room does not have depth. They absolutely do. I mean, the starters who are projected to move into those roles this season, they've been with the program 3-4 seasons. They know the schemes. They're familiar. They have continuity with what Phil Parker, defensive coordinator, wants them to do. They have a lot of guys. They do. I think they're going to be doing a lot of rotating in. So it just comes down to who is going to quickly adapt and show that they are consistently solid at the linebacker spots. And the one thing when it comes down to defense, and anyone who understands defense, that yes, linebacker concerns, that is legitimate. But it's much easier to replace linebackers than it is defensive secondary or defensive line, all right? Because linebackers simply come up, fill those holes, tackle up, the leftovers from the defensive line, clean up. I mean, it's one of those things that is easier to break in, but I think it is going to take potentially up to half of a season for us to really see who has made their mark and who are those long-term starters going to be. So I do have some big concerns for the linebackers, but I think it will work itself out because around them, I think the defensive line unit and the defensive secondary will still be really solid, all right, which I'd rather have that because, hey, if you have an average at best defensive line who can't produce pressure, an average quarterback is going to pick you apart given the time. Just like in the secondary, you've got to have dudes that can shut down deep threats one-on-one and get their hands on the ball and potentially create some turnovers. So we'll see what the linebacker core evolves and morphs into, but big concerns there. All right. Now, number 3, number 2, and number 1, I've got together. It's quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. All right. And this is no shot or me throwing any shade on Mark Gronowski. All right. It's just what we have seen from this team the last few seasons, really since 2020. I mean, where are we? Can we not just simply have an average or legit quarterback to run our offense? Somebody who has shown that they are competent, they've got some experience, numbers to back it up, an overall record to back it up, and Mark Gronowski is that guy. All right. This is the best Iowa quarterback probably since Nate Stanley, who Nate Stanley's overall record in Iowa was really good. The only knock on Nate Stanley was he just didn't seem to win the games that mattered, the big games, but he did have some big moments. But his record overall, really, really good at his time as the Iowa quarterback. I mean, the touchdown, his career touchdown passes, yards, really, really solid. All right, so this is hands down the best potential quarterback and the quarterback room we've seen since Nate Stanley. All right, and I'm going to talk now a little bit more about Mark Gronowski. Why all the hype? Why all the publicity? Here's why. All right, because so much is going to fall on his shoulders as the 1 year starter that he has in Iowa City. I mean, overall, listen to Mark Gronowski's career numbers. All right. Now, yes, this was at FCS level South Dakota State, but if you keep up, you know that South Dakota State is a powerhouse at the FCS level. They have been and they were during his time there up in Jackrabbits area. Overall, his career yards passing, he has 10,330 yards passing in his career, 93 touchdowns to 20 interceptions. That's a really good touchdown to interception ratio. But here's something else that pops out, that he also is a legitimate dual threat guy. He has rushed for 1,700 yards total as his time as a starting quarterback, and also has rushed for 37 touchdowns. So his legs are absolutely a weapon too. And that's exactly the type of quarterback that Tim Lester wants to run his pro-style Mike Shula type offense. He does. So that's why there is a lot of excitement. I mean, these are numbers that do pop off the screen, especially for a guy who's going to be Iowa's quarterback. Now, I get it. Some of you would say that's at a lower level, it's at lower competition. That potentially is true, all right? But there's one thing that we know. When it comes down to talent, talent does travel. It correlates, all right? Now, I look at like last year's starting quarterback for Minnesota, Max Brosmer, same guy. Came from the FCS ranks, great numbers overall, his stats, his record. It took him roughly about half a season to really get comfortable. But after that, it was like the light bulb went off. They were a much improved team. All right. So it might take him a little bit, but hey, talent correlates and it does travel. Just like Cody Schrader. I mean, I'm a resident of the Show Me State, Columbia, Missouri, home of the Missouri Tigers, is a stone's throw away from where I'm recording right now. And I remember when Coach Drinkowitz brought him in from Truman State, I mean, just gaudy numbers he put up at a lower level. And some people thought, yeah, that's not going to correlate. That's at a lower level. But at the end of his career there with Missouri, nobody was saying that. All right. So I am excited. This guy does have the talent to be a Big Ten quarterback. It might just take him a little bit of time to get completely comfortable in that role. All right. Other career stats for Mark Gronowski: his overall record as a starting quarterback, 49-6, really damn good. One of those losses came in 2022 when he led his Jackrabbits into Kinnick Stadium week 1 in that offensive defensive struggle, that 7-3 Iowa win. Iowa scored what? They had a field goal and not one but two safeties that day to secure a 7-3 victory. So that is one of his losses. And his numbers that day were not good, but that was very new in his career. And the thing is, with that loss, that was the only loss that South Dakota State had for the next 2 seasons while Mark Gronowski was at the helm as QB1 of the Jackrabbits. So Iowa that year, that was South Dakota State's only loss that year in 22, and they went undefeated the next year. So Iowa did defeat a championship caliber team. Most Power 4 teams can't say that, but Iowa can at least. Also, so he's a 2-time champion. All right, he won back-to-back national championships at South Dakota State, did Mark Gronowski, and he did win the FCS equivalent, their trophy, kind of the equivalent award of the Heisman Trophy Award that goes to Division I's best player in the nation each season. So this is a guy that brings a lot of attributes, a lot of good numbers to Iowa City. All right, so there's a lot on him, but if it ends up not working out, if heaven forbid he gets injured or he may not be as advertised, Iowa's QB room is in a much better position than what it's been in the last 5 years. I mean, Hank Brown, I think, is the clear-cut number 2, a guy who was very highly recruited and touted, a guy who transferred into Iowa from Auburn. He started some games down there on the plains for Auburn. I mean, he's got talent. You can tell his footwork has absolutely improved. And so he spent both years under the tutelage of Tim Lester. I think if worst case scenario, he'll be out there. And he is Iowa's quarterback of the future. And number 3 quarterback in that depth chart, in that room, is Jackson Stratton, a guy who started a couple games last year when Brendan Sullivan was injured and roughed up in that game out at UCLA in the Rose Bowl. And that guy's got a cannon of an arm. I mean, we saw that last year. I mean, everything is fastball. It's kind of like Brett Favre back in the day. Now, let me just say, Brett Favre in the Packers, not Vikings, okay, to where a little dump off out in the flat, a little screen across the middle, maybe 5-6 yards, it would be just a fastball after a fastball from Brett Favre. So Jackson Stratton has that arm strength. He just needed to work on his touch a little bit, but I think he absolutely has improved from what I've seen via the practices and some of the camp highlights and videos. So overall, Iowa's quarterback room is definitely in a much better position, in a good spot, I believe, overall. All right? So that's my 5 areas of concern. Let me know what you think below. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for your time, your attention, your support. Love you. Little Sammy Sosa style. All right, there we go. So now let's move to my 5 stars, my 5 impact players. The guys who I think will let their presence be known during this upcoming season. And some of these you already know, some of them I've already mentioned, but I gotta give proper credit where credit is due. Number 5, wide receiver Seth Anderson. I think now is the time. He will step out on the precipice to finally show us what he is capable of. I mean, the highly touted transfer from Charleston Southern, I think now that he has a quarterback that can throw a legitimate deep ball, he's going to be able to show us what his big playmaking ability is. So I do think he is going to show that early on in the season too. So I expect a big season, his last one in Iowa City, from Seth Anderson. Number 4, already said it, I've got to give more praise to the punter from down under, Reese Dakin. I mean, because Iowa's punt unit That team is an extension of Iowa's defense. That is the first play for Iowa's defense. And that really is true of any team, but it's kind of hard to fathom or really understand that. Based on how your punter performs, hey, then you know, how am I going to set up my defense? Inside the 10-yard line of the opponent, at the 40, their 40-yard line, inside my 40 if it's on my side of the field. So that really sets up everything for the defense. And the punting unit is an absolute direct extension of Iowa's defense. I think Reese Dakin is really going to take another step forward and really kind of start being a little more Tory Taylor-like. Not really from a distance perspective. We've seen this guy boot the hell out of the ball, but I mean just being able to consistently pin opposing teams inside their own red zone. All right, so I expect a big year from Reese Dakin. Number 3, All-American, All-Big Ten potential center, Logan Jones. This guy has completely each and every year improved. All right, he had to step into some big shoes to fill. He did when he took over the center responsibilities. But I think this is even more vital because now you're going to be working with a brand new quarterback. So you have to make sure your snaps are smooth, your long snaps are on target, the cadence, everything that you're in lockstep with that brand new starting quarterback. And I think this guy being a veteran center, it's going to be much easier to make that transition between himself and Mark Gronowski at quarterback. And he is the absolute captain of this very, very experienced and projected very, very solid and good Iowa offensive line. So I expect a big, big year from Logan Jones. Maybe can even take home some hardware at the end of the season. We'll have to wait and see. Number 2 on my list of impact players. This is kind of a duo because I can't mention one without the other, all right? And I've already mentioned them earlier in this episode. That's the defensive end duo of Max Llewellyn and Ethan Hurkett. These guys have got to continue to wreak havoc, especially in passing situations against opposing quarterbacks. Last year, they almost set up tents. They almost lived in backfields. They should have been maybe charged rent by opposing teams. I mean, how they were able to get to the quarterback, get those sack numbers up, tackle for loss, and really, forced fumbles and really get opposing quarterbacks out of their comfort zone, disrupt their timing, their routes, everything. I think Iowa, for their defense to get back to where they have been in years past, a lot of it is going to have to be shouldered by these two defensive ends. But I can't wait to see them, especially when they're both out there together, rushing the quarterback from both right and left end. I can't wait to see that. All right. Number 1, I think this one, I could have gone a lot of ways with the overall number 1, but impact player, it's got to be quarterback Mark Gronowski. Everything ultimately is going to kind of fall on him with what this season potentially could and what it's going to end up being based on how he performs as the general of that Iowa offense. All right? So let me know what you think about my 5-star and impact players below. Please, comment, share, rate, subscribe. Can't wait to hear from you. Iowa Nation, College Football Nation, blow it up below. And you all are welcomed here once again. All right, so now let's move on to the schedule portion of this episode. This is now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. And at the very end of this, I will give you my parting thoughts, and then we'll share with you what I think Iowa's overall record will be. Game by game, who will they defeat and who will they lose to? So yes, I'm saying right now they're not going to go undefeated. There's going to be at least a loss or two, okay? So stand by for that. So first, let's just go through what their schedule is. So here is their opponents, and both whether it's home or away. Week 1, they open up with the Albany Great Danes from the FCS. Week 2, they travel to Iowa State in this year's edition of the Cy-Hawk Battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy. So that game takes place week 2 in Ames. Week 3, they come back home and entertain UMass, the Minutemen, who this year have joined the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. Week 4, they open up Big Ten play on the road in Piscataway at Rutgers on a Friday night. And then week 5, they return home. It's homecoming, and they play Indiana in a really, really big-time game. So after week 5 against Indiana, they do have the first of their 2 bye weeks. Their 6th game, they're on the road in Madtown to face Wisconsin for the Heartland Trophy. After that game, they return home. Their 7th game, probably the biggest game from a media perspective and what's on the line for their opponent. They host Penn State, 7th game of the year. Then they stay at home. Their 8th game of the week, they've got Minnesota, the Golden Gophers, at home for the Battle for the Divine Swine, the Floyd of Rosedale Trophy. Then they have the 2nd bye week, and then they stay, after their bye week, they're at home. I mean, they're at home for basically an entire month, and they are in October into November. They host the Oregon Ducks, make their first trip to Kinnick Stadium. Then their 10th game, they're on the road at USC to face the Trojans in the Coliseum in La La Land. Their 11th game, they return home. It's senior day, final home game of the year. They entertain the Michigan State Spartans. And then the Black Friday game, they're on the road in Lincoln to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers for the Battle for the Heroes Trophy on Black Friday. Can't wait for that game and all of these games. All right. So when I share with you the schedule and when I look at it, I mean, there are some highlights and some overall superlatives. On this is a legit schedule. This is one of the most exciting Iowa schedules that I can remember in recent history. I mean, they've got tough games. They have not 1, not 2, but 3. They face off with 3 college football playoff teams from last season, and incredibly, they're all at home inside Kinnick Stadium. I mean, what a great year to be an Iowa Hawkeye season ticket holder. The only thing that would be the cherry on the top was if the Cy-Hawk game against Iowa State was also at home. I mean, what a great schedule. I mean, it's going to be challenging, maybe even daunting, but this is the kind of schedule we want as fans. We want our teams to earn it on the field. And their trophy games, Iowa has 4 trophy games. Cy-Hawk, Heartland, Floyd of Rosedale, Heroes. And 3 out of those 4 trophy games are on the road this year. So it is a very daunting task for this Iowa team via that schedule. I mean, the heads up there, the Big Ten home offices in Chicago, did not do the Iowa program any favors via the schedule this season. All right, but once again, I'm not complaining because last year's schedule, it was set up for success, but unfortunately, Iowa could not capitalize off of that. All right, so before I break down the wins and losses, I like to every season here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, I like to share with you what I believe is the biggest 4-game stretch of the season for Iowa as far as against these opponents. And if you go 4-0, 3-1, hey, you really have an opportunity for a really, really solid, if not legitimate, even better season. But if you go 2-2 or worse, that's where you're really going to miss opportunities for a really, really breakout or statement-making season. And this year, the biggest 4-game stretch in my mind when I look at this schedule is the homecoming game against Indiana. All right, I think that's going to be a huge game. Then the bye week, and then when they travel to Madison to take on Wisconsin, and then home against Penn State. and then following that, the home game against Minnesota. So that, I think, is going to be the definitive 4-game stretch for Iowa. There are some challenges there. Indiana, at Wisconsin, home against Penn State, home against Minnesota. If Iowa can navigate that 4-game stretch and go 3-1, if they can find a way to go 3-1, they are going to have a really good opportunity, proper English there. I mean, I do my own stunts here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I don't do any edits. I don't do any resets or restarts. I don't do any of that. That would be a job. I've already got a legitimate job. That if they can go 3-1, they are going to have a great opportunity to maybe get themselves in that college football playoff discussion. If they go 2-2, I still think during that stretch, go 2-2, 500, they can still have a really good, solid year. But if they go worse than that, it could maybe go off the rails a little bit. So to me, that's the biggest 4-game stretch for our Hawkeyes. Now, before I give you my win-loss, my overall thoughts, all right, how I think this season is going to play out. I do believe the offense will be much improved, and especially they will be much more balanced, all right? Mark Gronowski is going to put up good numbers. Is he capable of throwing between 15 to 20 touchdown passes? Absolutely. And that might be enough. I mean, Iowa doesn't... When's the last time Iowa expected their quarterback to throw 30 touchdown passes? It doesn't happen. It's not something that has to happen at Iowa to be successful. But can he throw 15 or more? I think so. Is he capable of throwing for, 2,300 yards? I think so, or more. And once again, that may not sound like a lot to some of you, and it's not compared to some of the air raid offenses out there. I'm not saying Iowa's going to be, air Hawkeye, right? But if this guy can come in here and throw for 2,500 yards, once again, that is completely enough for what the Iowa program demands or really expects. I mean, can he throw for 2,300 yards or more? I definitely think he can. I think the offense will be much more balanced and will take a few more steps in the right direction because of the overall better quarterback situation that they have, whether it's Mark Gronowski, Hank Brown, or Jackson Stratton. The defense, I think, will be much more improved from last season. I mean, giving up 3 double-digit leads late that then led to losses, that's not going to happen again. It's not. I think Phil Parker will make those adjustments. And last year, I think it just came down to poor tackling at times, poor angles. I don't think there were a lot of busted coverages. There were here and there, right? Which was something that was very, very, odd for us to see. But I definitely think the defense will have a really good bounce back year. I think they will. Even though they were plus 12 in turnover margin last year, which was among the best in the nation. All right. So if it came down to which one do I think is going to be better? What's a safer bet? A great offense or a much improved defense? I'm going to have to say it's a safer bet to go with a much improved defense. I said the offense will be better, but I don't think they're going to quite be what some people believe they're going to be. Mark Gronowski's going to throw for 3,000, 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns. They're going to average 35 points a game. Hey, we'll take that, right? But I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. They will be better, but I think it's a safer bet to expect the defense to be much more improved and to be a little bit more Iowa-like the last 10 seasons that we've grown accustomed to, all right? Now, the last thing I want to say before I break down the schedule, and thank you for staying with me. I'll try to keep this under an hour, but hey, this is hands down my longest episode of the season. It is and it will be. There's a lot of parallels being drawn between this year's squad and maybe the 2002, 2009 teams. of Iowa that both kind of came in under the radar, had breakout seasons. Maybe I can see that, but I'm not ready to go to that point. I'm just not, because some of those teams, they had proven talent. All right, they did. But the schedule, especially 2009, the schedule in 2009, we remember how daunting it was. Every one of Iowa's toughest games were on the road, at Penn State, at Ohio State, at Wisconsin, at Michigan State. This year it's reversed. The toughest games are definitely at home, other than maybe going to Iowa State, right? So there are some parallels here, all right? I can see that, especially maybe the 2009 squad, but I don't see this team being a legitimate playoff contender. I think they'll have their chance to prove it and earn that on the field, but I'm not buying those parallels quite yet between this squad, this year's team, and the 2009 or 2002 teams. I'm just not seeing it quite yet. I hope I'm wrong, right? But I'm just not seeing that yet. Only time's going to tell. So I think maybe some Hawkeye fans who are saying that and truly believe it, you may want to maybe just pump the brakes just a little bit. Okay? All right. Now here it comes. The curtain's about to come up on my prediction for Iowa's overall record in the regular season. So here it comes. All right, and please let me know what you think, Hawkeye fans, college football fans. Comment below. I can't wait to hear from you. Please exercise your college football right. Exercise your voice. Can't wait to hear from you. Like, share, comment, subscribe once again, and rate. So here we go. Let's look at Iowa's schedule as I break it down. Week 1, home against the Albany Great Danes. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one. That's going to be a win. Week 2, on the road at Jack Trice Stadium against the Cyclones for the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Iowa has won every game in Jack Trice since 2011. I mean, this rivalry seems to usually always kind of go in favor of the road, the visiting squad. It just seems to do that lately, okay? And I'm a big supporter of history. I believe in history. Iowa hasn't lost there since 2011. But I just think this year's matchup, I think it's tough for me to really pick Iowa to go on the road and get it done against the Cyclones. I am very bullish, very high on this year's Iowa State squad. I did pick them. Last week's episode, I do think they will be an at-large from the Big 12. I think they will make the college football playoff. I think ultimately they will lose to Baylor in the Big 12 title game. And I think when these two teams meet up in week 2, Mark Gronowski and that offense will still be working out some kinks, but Iowa State will be completely battle-tested. I mentioned they play in 2 days? 2 days and a wake-up. They play Kansas State, and then week 1, to everybody else, they play a pretty solid FCS squad in South Dakota, the Coyotes. So they will be battle-tested and proven. They have to replace their entire wide receiver core and room, but I think Iowa State will just be a better team than Iowa in this one. I like Iowa to go on the road and lose to the Cyclones. Week 3 at home against UMass. I think this is a get-right kind of game, and it comes at a good time. I think this will help that offense further work out some kinks. The Iowa linebackers to kind of get more experience as well. So this is a victory. So going into the Big Ten Conference opener, I've got Iowa sitting at 2-1. On the road, a short week, a Friday night game at Rutgers there in New Jersey. Greg Schiano, I mean, one of the best coaches in the entire nation, a guy who doesn't get his credit. I mean, they do have the second-year quarterback there, the former Minnesota starting quarterback, the Greek god, Ethan Kaliakmanis. I mean, what a great name for a starting quarterback. I think Iowa just has more talent. I think their identity, their culture is stronger. I think they'll just pound the rock. I think it's going to be a very Iowa-type game, battle plan and victory. I think Iowa goes on the road. They defeat Rutgers in Piscataway, opening up Big Ten Conference play with the victory. Week 5, at home against Indiana. It's homecoming day in Iowa City, and against an Indiana team that, hey, they did make the playoff, the college football playoff last season. They deserved it, going 11-1 in the regular season. I think this Indiana team will have some staying power. They find themselves ranked in the AP poll, I believe, the first time since the 1960s. So good for Coach Signetti, all his swag. He's got some riz, is what the kids these days would say. And I think this is the most important game on Iowa's schedule. Well, you can agree or disagree with me, but this game really sets up everything for what this season could or could not, will and will not be. This game is hands down to me the most important game. All right. If Iowa wins this game, it will be a win over a ranked opponent. And that really hasn't happened recently at Kinnick Stadium, a place that was known to be where highly ranked teams go to die, right? But I think this is a good spot for Iowa. They have a longer week to prepare, from that Friday night game at Rutgers. Indiana, the week before, they host Illinois. In Bloomington, I think they'll be a little bit banged up. And I think Iowa does win this game comfortably. That doesn't mean by 30 points, not a blowout. But sometimes a 14-point victory, it just looks a little bit closer on the scoreboard than what it really is. I do think Iowa does get this victory. And going into their first of 2 bye weeks, they feel really, really good. All right, so I do have Iowa defeating Indiana. So after their 5th game, I've got them 4-1, 2-0 in Big Ten Conference play. So out of the bye, they go up, they make a trip north to their rival. They go to Madtown to take on the Wisconsin Badgers, battle for the Heartland Trophy in Madison. And I am not going to lie to you guys that this game really, really scares me. My previous episodes, I have told you I do expect Luke Fickell will not survive another year up in Madison. I think he will be fired, dismissed either during the season or worst or best case scenario at the end of the season. Their schedule, their lack of talent, they just they haven't gotten any traction in the offense up there that Luke Fickell has tried to install in Wisconsin. I think this is going to be Wisconsin's Super Bowl. I really do. I think by this time, Wisconsin is battle-tested. They would have played at Alabama, home against Michigan. And I think the biggest hope for Wisconsin, if they at least want to get to bowl eligibility, which I think going 6-6 may still not be enough for Luke Fickell, I think this is a game that Wisconsin has to have. And I think they're going to throw everything at Iowa. It will be do or die for them. That crowd will be off the hook, especially if it's a night game. I mean, they'll be jumping around the entire game, not just at the start of the 4th quarter. I think this is a really, really bad spot for Iowa. And I do expect them to have at least one bad loss this season. And I think it does come this year to Wisconsin. I think Iowa, leaves Wisconsin with a loss because I just think there's so much on the line for Wisconsin. But I'll say this, if Iowa can find a way to defeat the Badgers in Madison, we're looking at potentially a really, really good year. Okay? So I do have them losing at Wisconsin. They fall to 4-2. 2-1 in Big Ten Conference play. Now comes that huge matchup against Penn State, who at this time could be the number 1 team in the nation. I do expect that they will be undefeated. Wow, what a big time game. Hopefully this is a night game for Iowa and hopefully not for Penn State. I could see this being the Fox big noon game with an 11 o'clock kickoff, which this kind of a game that would favor Penn State because the home crowd doesn't have all day and some of the evening to get jazzed up, right, to get excited. And Penn State doesn't have to worry to sit around thinking about it all day and most of the night. So this is a huge game. All right, I think that this is Iowa's opportunity to once again come out and prove why you never, ever want to sleep on coming to Iowa City as a highly ranked, highly favored team and look past it and expect to lose, expect to get out of town with a win. Plus, I think this comes at a very, very trying time for Penn State. All right, by now, they would have played, they host Oregon for the whiteout. I think they do win that game. They're going to be on cloud nine. And a couple weeks after this game at Iowa, they have to travel to the Horseshoe to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes in Columbus. So they might be looking a little bit ahead. But I think James Franklin, he's gone through this. He knows what a absolute pitfall Kinnick Stadium can be. I mean, he's had some losses there. He's had a couple good victories. The last time they met in Kinnick Stadium, it was that walk-off win for Penn State. Last play of the game, down by 4. They get a touchdown, the Saquon Barkley game. It was an amazing game to watch. So Penn State did win that game, but Iowa has knocked off Penn State several times in Kinnick Stadium since they joined the Big Ten under the tutelage of Coach Kirk Ferentz. They came in undefeated, highly ranked, and left Iowa City with an L. So big game here. I think Iowa does rebound. And I'm not saying this to be a Homer Simpson, but I picked this. I thought that this would be Penn State's only regular season loss. I think Iowa rallies. They find a way behind the home crowd. I think, like I said, it's also a tough spot for Penn State, defeating Oregon, going to Ohio State shortly after this game. I think Iowa finds a way to win, guys. And plus I will be in attendance too. This is the one game that we are going to as a family. So I'm not being swayed by that. I'm listening to my head, not my heart. But I do think Iowa will find a way to win. I think Iowa takes down Penn State. At that point, they move to 3-1 in Big Ten conference play, and they're in a very good position. Week 4, the next game, their 8th game of the year, they stay at home, and they're at home for an entire month, guys. They take on Minnesota, I think, potentially the chance for maybe a little bit of a hangover, a letdown spot, but I don't think it happens. I think Minnesota is maybe a 6-6, maybe 7-5 kind of team. I think they defeat Minnesota in Kinnick Stadium. You know, they hold on to the Floyd of Rosedale going into their bye week in a really good spot. All right? Their bye, and then after the bye week, last home game for a while, they host Oregon. I think this is the game that Oregon, they're also coming off a bye. If Oregon was, having to travel a couple time zones to play Iowa, I would maybe think that Iowa could maybe get the victory. But I think Iowa kind of comes out and stubs its toe a little bit. I think just the athleticism of Oregon, I think they come into Kinnick Stadium, and I think just they have a few more bigger plays. I think they leave Kinnick with a W. I just think Oregon comes in here and gives Iowa a loss, kind of takes a little bit of air out of everything, kind of a slightly deflating loss, but I do think that happening. Oregon comes in, gives Iowa a loss. Next game, Iowa travels west. They head west, young man. It's been an absolute house of horrors west of the Mississippi for Iowa. We know what happens. The history of going out to California to play in Rose Bowls, to play UCLA or USC. They're at USC inside the Coliseum. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm with history on this. I just don't see Iowa leaving LA with a victory. I think they lose to USC and have back-to-back losses against Oregon and USC. Plus, I think Lincoln Riley's team ultimately, I think, will find themselves ranked. I think they will have a very, very good, solid bounce back year for the Trojans. So I think Iowa loses this game at USC. Their 11th game, they come back home to Kinnick Stadium, senior day, to take on Michigan State, a team that really, really kind of embarrassed them last year. One of those games that the defense just could not slow down their rushing attack. I like Aiden Childs, second-year starting quarterback for Michigan State. He's got a lot of potential. I do like their head coach as well, but I don't see Iowa losing this game on senior day. It's going to be probably pretty cold, but hey, Michigan State, they love the cold, all right? But I just think Iowa gets this game done. I think it's going to be push and pull a little bit during this game, but I think Iowa does defeat Sparty. They take the victory, win over Michigan State. And the last game of the year, here they are. They're 8-3 overall with three conference losses. All right. 8-3. Actually, no, they're 7. They come into this game 7-4 does Iowa. Excuse me there. 3 conference losses, then 1 non-conference loss at Iowa State. So a chance to get to 8-4 or lose against Nebraska and end up 7-5. I think this Nebraska team will be much improved. All right. I think Coach Matt Rule, I mean, this is the year where he has a really good bounce back year while he was at Temple and Baylor. It's on the road. I mean, this is getting to be a very, very big time hated. I don't want to use hate. I don't like to use that hate, but I'll say a very heated, budding rivalry between Iowa and Nebraska, especially among the fan bases. I think Nebraska might be a better team, but I can't go against history here. I mean, whenever it's been a close game, and we've seen these games are always close. They've been coming down lately to field goals, all right? And when it's that typical Iowa versus Nebraska game, it's really Iowa just has had to bide their time and let Nebraska do Nebraska things. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to disrespect any Husker fans watching, but it is the truth, okay? That Iowa, they have just seen to be stronger with culture and identity and just more sound in these matchups, to where Nebraska late in the game will just do something that hands the opportunity to Iowa to secure a victory. All right, and I don't really have understood why this is such a heated rivalry game. It's starting to kind of get that way with me recently, but remember, this is not a rivalry game that Iowa fans asked for. But when Nebraska joined the Big Ten, they had to give them a yearly rival. They had to build something, right? Because they had to advertise, hey, here's the rivalry, Iowa, Nebraska, Black Friday. Cool. It was pushed on us, but overall, it really hasn't been a rivalry. I mean, yes, Nebraska hasn't lost every single time against Iowa, but since the first couple years of this series, it has been completely one-sided, Iowa over Nebraska. And Nebraska fans, that's just the truth. And a lot of it has been just the Nebraska programs have just faded and crumbled like pie crust late in the games. They just haven't figured out how to win in this particular game. So I just have to go with history, and I'm going to believe that the Iowa program is just more sound until Nebraska proves me otherwise. So I'm going to take Iowa to get another 3-point victory on the road at Nebraska on Black Friday, capture the Heroes Trophy, and finish the regular season 8-4 overall, 6-3 in the Big Ten. That is my official forecast for the Iowa Hawkeyes this season. So 8-4, a solid year, a very typical Iowa year. But hey, when it comes down to this schedule, that's going to be a good season. And sometimes, even though you may have the same or the worse record than the previous season, you still can have a better team. And this will be a better Iowa team from last year's. Even though that'll be the same regular season record of 8-4, they will be much improved overall. All right? And I do think the overall ceiling, if a couple things go their way and they win some of these toss-up games, I think the ceiling for Iowa could be 10-2, which at that point, that not only, worst case scenario, that keeps you in the college football playoff discussion, but if you go 10-2, you're probably going to get into the college football playoff, especially with Iowa's schedule. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying 10-2 I think is their ceiling. But if they lose a couple of these toss-up games and things don't quite go their way, I think even the floor of this team could be 6-6. I really think that. So, but officially I got them going 8-4. Losses at Iowa State, at Wisconsin, home against Oregon, and at USC. All right. Well, that's it, guys. That is my episode, my official 2025 Iowa Hawkeye season preview and predictions episode. Hawkeye fans, holler back. I can't wait to hear from you. Comment below. College football fans alike, you are invited and welcomed as well. Please comment below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree, disagree with some of my hot takes and my opinions? Or, hey, or you can ask me anything. Ask me any college football question. I cannot wait to hear from you, and I promise I will get back to you. So next week, I'll be back. It's officially game week next week. Everyone else will be kicking off, even though it's week 0 coming up in a few days. So next week, I'll be back with my week 1 preview and picks episode. I cannot wait to be back with you as we officially kick off the entire college football season. So until then, enjoy the rest of your work week, your school week. Enjoy week 0, Iowa State, Kansas State, 11 o'clock Central Time from Ireland. I can't wait to watch that. So until then, peace, prosperity, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. And as always, go Hawks. See you then. Bye-bye.